It started at 13, just started high school, didn't really know anyone, had braces that made me talk funny, and I was well known for being up there academically, and also I was skinny, and it was remarked on quite often. And I felt the pressure of keeping up my grades, and I knew I couldn't control that, but I could control my weight. It wasn't too long before I was no longer in control, and that's when things got scary. The real me was really pretty messed up at that stage. I had a dying grandfather, I had a sick mother, and it all got too much. I also was aware of the power of the body, having had a childhood experience with a pedophile photographer. Looking back, the eating disorder protected me. It was my friend. It was my best friend that protected me from the world, helped me escape from the world. I was pulled out of school. They were afraid to have me there. The doctors decided to try refeeding me at home, and so I was back in a childhood kind of protected state. Mum left work, and she took upon it herself to help with the refeeding, and yeah, it's an illness that doesn't just affect the person who has it. It has a real impact on the family and those who are watching their loved one die slowly, because that's what it is in reality. A slow way to die. Mum would hug me at night. Body heat was the only way I could stay warm. She'd cry as I slept. She'd walk into the room. There was a smell about me, kind of like I was decaying. Yet I'd look in the mirror, and when I could eventually see the skeleton that looked back, I was too afraid to even add a piece of mandarin to my daily diet. I took up cooking for the family as a way of eating myself, I suppose. And whenever I was having to mix something, I'd turn away, fearing that the calories would go up my nose. It was irrational behaviour, but it made complete sense to me at the time. It was all-consuming. I wasn't eating food, but I was obsessing about it 24/7. It was no way to live. It was no way to live. It got to the point where I was so afraid of increasing my diet just by the tiniest increment, because I felt such a fear of losing control. I thought that once I'd had that extra slice of apple, that extra little piece of carrot, that I wouldn't be able to stop. That was my greatest fear, that I would become an out-of-control monster. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself that I could stop. And the first time I was refed and restored my weight, that was proved true. Because we did it at home, it wasn't controlled, and shortly after I started to regain some weight, my body just wanted anything and everything, and nobody had prepared me for that. Nobody had told me that that was a possibility, and it reconfirmed I was a freak. So I was gaining weight. I doubled my weight, went from 29 to 60 kilos in 3 months. My heart rate at rest was around 120. And on top of that, 60 kilos isn't huge, but of all the water weight and the edema that came with it, I puffed right up. And that's when the self-harming started. And that's when I started trying to make myself sick, which I wasn't very good at. And so then followed 17 years of losing and gaining, just trying to keep that number going down. Living like that for so many years, I missed out on so much. I really did. It was like living in a prison I'd created myself. And when I wasn't actively in an eating disorder, I was actively engaged in some other form of self-destructive behaviour. And that's why an eating disorder is so similar to an addiction. It's all-encompassing. It's about control, and I had my mum pass away recently, and I was thinking on my way here today, it wasn't necessarily the things I did or didn't do that I regret, which I always thought it was. It was not being present that I regret, because I couldn't be. I was controlled. Sorry. At the start, it was my family and friends who really wanted me to have help. My family and I tried a lot of treatments, starting with a psychiatrist in my teens for many years, a couple of inpatient treatment centres, a very long inpatient treatment centre over in Australia, which took 15 months, various outpatient programs and counsellors. Though I'd gained knowledge and benefits from these treatments, from each one, none had got me to a place of wholeness, of real wellness. And I just desperately wanted that. And when I heard about Capri, I thought, why not give it a go? What have I got to lose? Because, I'm not really living, I'm just surviving. And it was the best decision I ever made. It really was. At Capri, I put my whole heart and soul into getting well. Every part of me wanted it. And the part that fought, Capri helped me fight back. The chef was able to cater to my needs. I was with a variety of patients, all suffering various ailments, and I could relate to them all. So every class I found some relevance in, and I soaked it all up. The team and I set realistic goals and achieved them, and those goals continued after I left Capri. And as an outpatient, I could come in for groups Monday to Friday and come to hang out on the weekends if I wanted. I could have as little or as much to do with Capri as I wanted or needed, and that made a huge difference. For the first few months, I was like a bad smell. They couldn't get rid of me. And as I've gradually, started to stand and walk and run, though I've needed them less, I still like to come back. Capri was like a family and still is. I mean, everything down to the serene location beside the water. It just all spelt health for me. Health and well-being, happiness, freedom. Things I hadn't known for 17 years. Capri Hospital is different in the way that although you've got the clinical team, the psychiatrist, doctor, nurses on 24/7, it doesn't feel like a hospital. It feels like a place of healing. It feels like a home. Yet, you're in safe hands. I wouldn't say that I'm fixed as such. Recovering from an eating disorder is just that, recovery. For instance, I was admitted to hospital recently and lost a couple of kilos, and those old thoughts, they returned. But I had the tools, and I had the trust in myself, and I had the support base that it didn't go any further than a few thoughts. I never would have thought, after 17 years, that I would get this level of freedom. It's just amazing. I honestly didn't believe that I would be able to live the way I am now. I don't live to eat or not eat anymore. I eat to live. I have back my passions. The things I love, they've returned. And it can happen for anyone. If it happened for me, it can happen for you. If there's anyone out there watching this that has or knows someone that might have an eating disorder, whether it be a few months, a few years, a lifetime, I just urge you to get help, because the freedom that comes with getting well is so worth the fight. And for me, that freedom came at Capri.